Good afternoon, or I should say good evening. Sean here. It's been a while since I went on YouTube. Good to be back. It's been about a month, I think, and I actually got it's not quite doing what I want it to do, but hey, when has my hair ever done what I wanted it to do? So I just wanted to check in. A few weeks ago, I had the pleasure of attending Fawkes Day at my friend's farm north of Edmonton, and uh, it's funny because going to this uh, was a real good chance for me to catch up with my friend. But also, one of the things I really like about Guy Fawkes Day, I wish it was embraced in North America a little more, is that it's very irreverent. And I think that we need more of that in our society because, I look around sometimes and I see sort of a worship of government going on and taking hold. And Guy Fawkes, even though we burn him in effigy every year at Guy Fawkes Day, he had the guts to try and blow up the government, which is a sentiment I think that all citizens should keep in mind. That good fences make good neighbors. The U.S. they have the Second Amendment, and in Canada we're a little softer than that, but I think that there's a good principle at play there about boundaries between citizens and their government. Anyways, that was a lot of fun. Really got to catch up with my friend and his family and a whole bunch of my friends from the area, which was great. We'll set off a huge bonfire, set off these crazy fireworks that are like in 5-inch steel tubes. We were firing them off. Glad I didn't. Okay, so I'm resuming. I hope that doesn't look too funky, but where was I? Yeah, so yeah, we let off these huge fireworks. It felt like probably what Fallujah feels like to a guy like me, who's a lawyer, who sits behind a desk, firing off these things in the middle of nowhere. But sure was great fun. And but I think the principle behind Guy Fawkes sort of ties into the article that I read today, and I posted it on my Twitter. I think the group is called Epsilon Theory, and they're talking about politics in sort of the context of American decline. And one of the remedies to this that the author was talking about has to do with taking back your vote. And it's funny because I've been trying to write an article on this topic for probably over a year now, and I can't get it right. I just can't get going on it. I put down a few things I want to talk about, but it doesn't come out right. It doesn't come out true. And this article is excellent, so check it out. It's on my Twitter feed, right near the top. And check it out and see what this guy's talking about. But the principle of taking back the vote is one that I've been working on myself since May of 2015. That's when the NDP government got in. And I looked around and I saw that the people who'd been elected, largely weren't really great candidates to represent us as a province. And, one didn't have his driver's license, I think was 20 years old. A few were still in university, which is fine. But frankly, I think that, we should demand a little bit more in the way of judgment from our politicians. And I looked around and I saw a whole bunch of people who really, frankly, really weren't all that qualified or didn't really exhibit great judgment to me. And not that they're not great people or, want what's best for Alberta, but I just didn't think that they were really up for the job. So I got off the couch. I'd previously been giving money to a political party, but had never really been involved. And I got involved with my local board, and I worked on a by-election campaign and then another by-election campaign. So I was doing the work that they were talking about in the Epsilon Theory article, which is door knocking, fundraising, meeting people, talking to people about politics, putting your best foot forward, engaging with politics. And frankly, it's sort of sad. When you think about it, I'd never done that before. So I would have been, 31 when I started, and I'd never done that before. And really, even through law school, I was sort of apolitical. I wasn't really all that up to speed on politics Um, I never really engaged in it. I thought that was something someone else did. The same government was always in control in Alberta, at least for the longest time. And, federal politics, I sort of was jaded by. But this was a wake up call when we got, what I think, if we're all being honest, we can agree is a weak government in. So it got me out, got me into the community, and got me learning about these things that they talk about in the Epsilon Theory article. About the way these community groups work, whether it's the Legion, Shriners, your local political party, constituency board, political party, another charity, for instance. It got me thinking about, de Tocqueville and the fabric of civil society and how important that is. One of the things we've done as a tradition is late in August, we always do what's called Corn Fest. We roast up, enough corn for 500 people, and we feed the people. We don't ask them for a donation. We don't force signing up on them. We just say, hey, come, we're giving back to the community, have a chat. We're not such bad guys. We want to hear what you're talking about, sure, but just enjoy some nice, fresh Alberta corn on us. And, it's a small thing, but it's one of these things that we take for granted here, that we can do that, organize ourselves, and go help each other. I think it's a very, very valuable thing. I think it's something that keeps us free on all sorts of levels because what it represents is that power is distributed evenly in our society and broadly, rather than the Politburo at the top telling people where to go, how high to jump. We have groups of people of similar interests who are willing to work together and advocate and organize and make things happen. And I tell my friends always, I say, listen, like, I don't even care what political party you're in. Get out there, give it a shot. If you've ever been curious about it, just go and put your best foot forward. And when you do that, everybody in our whole society benefits. I am a firm believer in that. Even if it's, well, maybe not the Communist Party. Any short of the Communist Party. Okay. Any actually sane party, go give them a hand. Even the NDP. I'll make an exception for the NDP. They're pretty close to communist, but not quite there. Anyway, so I never really got off the ground on the article, but I really do recommend the Epsilon Theory article. Give it a read and think about it, internalize it. Let me know what you think. Hopefully you'll put some of the principles in the article to practice. Yeah, so anyways, that's what I wanted to say about that. I hope you're going good. I had a good workout today. Ran. It was a beautiful evening after work. Lifted some weights. It's funny. I'm 35. I'm a little fatter than I was. I'm a little more muscular. And I'm fine with that. I don't need to be a super light. Not that I ever really was a super light guy, but I'm okay being a bit bigger, a bit stronger. Anyways, if you read my blog, you might have read a piece of that I did last year about lessons from an 80-year-old lawyer. A friend of mine introduced me to an older gentleman who was looking at retiring, and he was practicing law at the age of 80, swimming more or less daily, going to work, playing bridge, sharp as a whip, in great shape, and so we went for lunch. We became friends. And recently, what my friend did, he said, I'm actually retiring now. I'm going to give you my library. So I got a couple of I'll show you one of these days at my work where I have most of the books. I'll show you those books, but I'll show you the ones I'm reading here at home. So that's the sort of guy you're dealing with. I'm doing my CPD, my continuing professional development at home at all times. So this is a book about Donahue and Stevenson, famous Scottish case. It's called Donahue and Stevenson and the Modern Law of Negligence. So I'm reading this book. It was a bunch of papers for a conference celebrating Donahue and Stevenson, and it's a little dry. I'm not really a tort lawyer, but it's good to always be expanding and growing and learning how to think differently and laterally and learning and seeing how other lawyers think. So it's great. And I'm also reading this. Drafting shareholders agreements. Something I do. But this is written by an Edmonton lawyer, Ricky Wasuk. I think I'm saying that right. And it's really sharp, really good, getting me thinking about different angles on things and thinking about how to negotiate and draft and think about some of these issues. Some of them I haven't really encountered. But anyway, it's good to have on the radar screen. And then I'm also rereading, I should say, this brilliant book, 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel. It's an excellent read. I thought what we would do, let's just take a look at this together. Just going to read a thought here. So in chapter 1, Peter introduces his question that he asks job interviewees to sort of sort the wheat from the chaff, so to speak. That question is this: what important truth do very few people agree with you on? So I wrote an article about this a while ago, pinning down what this means and putting together my answer to this question. But because we're kind of starting on this, he says, it may be easier to start with a preliminary. What does everybody agree on? And quotes Nietzsche, madness is rare in individuals, but in groups, parties, and nations and ages, it is the rule. Madness in groups, madness in ages is the rule. Isn't that the truth? So anyways, what does everybody agree on? What does everybody agree on? What's a common ground of agreement between people? Would it be too radical to say that democracy is a great thing? That's really poking the bear, right? How about that global warming is going to be a catastrophe? That's still a little heretical, right? A lot of people do agree with that. Some don't. The point is, people and parties and groups do get sucked into these things. Look at Hitler's Germany, for instance, Stalin's Russia. And only later do they realize that they were entranced, as it were, and that something totally irrational had taken over their whole nation, including them. They were swept along. So what's sweeping us along today? Look out in society and think, what's sweeping us along today? And in light of the wonderful Epsilon article, I'd like to suggest, and it's coming on Christmas time, the malls are full. Isn't there a degree of consumerism that is, and here I am sounding like some sort of communist, isn't there a degree of consumerism that is sucking us along, that's regulating our lives, that we'll look back on and say, wow, what were we really doing racing to the mall 6 weeks before, coming out with all these bags? What was that all about? Could we have used our energies differently? Could we have just spent more time with our family? I have a friend who grew up in the Depression, and his grandchildren go on long ski trips even though they're very young. And this gentleman grew up in a time when life was very tough and there wasn't a lot to go around. The money was very scarce. So for him, he looks at this and he can't square the circle on it. He thinks that's wasteful. Will we look back on this and think it's wasteful to do these sorts of trips, to indulge our children or our nieces, our nephews, or even our parents to that extent? It's a good question. What does everyone agree on now? What will we look back on that we agree on now and say, how did we think that? What were we thinking at that time? Jeez, it's crazy. Anyways, that's my food for thought. I don't really have answers for you there. I sort of threw out a few for discussion, but drop me a line anytime. I'm always happy to hear from you. And thank you for watching. Have a great night.